Hey, yeah, here we go. One more time because people have to know my testimony. I've been listening to full gospel, televangelists, and non denominational and denominational people for many, too many years, discounting what God has revealed to me personally. But if we're followers of Christ and we believe that God sent his only begotten Son who died and was resurrected so God can speak to us, join us in a union, then he has. The only problem is we don't recognize it. So as I was a child, maybe 13 or 14, I was convinced that my father was cheating on my mother. And at 13 years old, 14 years old, I looked at him. I said, I don't want to be like you. I never want to be like you. I know I'm cutting to the chase real quick, but there's a purpose, method. And that stuck in my mind. And I believe that was God trying to show me where Satan was going to tempt me in my life. Did I know I was going to be the first one in my family of 5 to get married? No. Did my wife or my girlfriend at the time know she was going to be the first one to get married out of high school, out of 11 people? No. But God did. And God revealed to Paul Denigris what was going to tear his life apart and how the devil was going to come to attack him. And Jesus Christ was manifest to destroy the work of the devil. So God, in his mercy and grace, to make it where you can understand it, gave me a heads up. Because he sent his son. And in that, he sent his son in your life. And about the same, his son to reveal to you in his life what he has for you, knowing how Satan or the devil is going to come to tear your life in your home completely apart. In my wife's life, in her home, God revealed a separate issue to her. Mine was cheating, hers was anger. For you, it's something different. But what do? We go to church, we pay our dues, we get up, we leave, and it's a constant revolving door. And there's a reason why nothing they say come to pass. And your life hasn't changed, and you don't have any more peace in your life. And there's a reason why you don't listen to God. I don't know what that reason is. Maybe you're doing exactly what he commanded you not to. But in each and every instance, when God brought miracles to people's lives, it was when he spoke to them as intimately as he could. Now, and as plainly as he could. Wasn't too difficult for Pharaoh, was it? Let my people go. Wasn't too difficult for the man by the pool of Bethesda. Pick up your bed and walk. It wasn't too difficult for that harlot or that harlot, that married harlot that was going after men, after men, after men to try to find peace. God said, your sins are forgiven. And don't we do that spiritually as that harlot does? We go to church every week. We go do our thing every week, and it's hoping we'll find peace then. If we give money, then. If we get this prayer cloth from this dude and we pay $1,000 and get that little kneely thing, then we'll get peace then. But it's like the harlot where we go from church to church, this so-called man of God, or this person to person trying to find peace, and nothing improves. And there's a reason. God has spoken to you because he sent his son personally, something different to you than for me. And God didn't take a stamp and go, okay, let's just stamp this out. And God spoke to each one. And then I'll tell you what he spoke. I'll tell you what his will is for you. It's to be prosperous. It's to be full of power. And guess what? If God didn't reveal those things to you personally, You'd be a fool to follow after another man. Would kind of get my relive these nightmares that I spent in the full gospel televangelist deal was the lies that came out of their mouth and how it took the power of God to set me free, the same power that set Abraham free, the same power that set Moses free, the same power that set the man by the pool of Bethesda free. And God said that he'd set me free. Those things that the devil would come in my life, God promised he'd set me free. I'm a walking, talking miracle here today, not by my own power, not by my own might, but by the grace and mercy of God. And the miraculous things that that man received by the pool of Bethesda, you won't get that, but you have something similar to that. That if you recount the thoughts of that person, of that meeting that was very strange of a stranger, guess what? You'd know. And that you know that that was not just a stranger. That was an angel that came to talk to you, to tell you that, to warn you that this is where the devil is going to come to destroy your life, tempt you. So what do? We get scriptural interpretation and we follow after a man who God never gave the authority. And the reason why the things in your life hasn't come to pass, even though you do the things that this dude tells you to do, as he mutters the same scriptures that anybody can mutter, it's because God didn't send him. It's plain and simple. God didn't send him. Plain and simple, God had nothing to do with his message. Plain and simple, his message is not inspired by God. Plain and simple. The reason why I wasted my time for 20 years in a full gospel televangelistic movement was God didn't send them. That's the reason why nothing that they said manifested. I received none of God's rewards because God didn't send them. They were as useless, and they are as useless of the prophets of Baal in Ezekiel's time. But you don't see them carving up an offering on the side of a mountain, calling down fire, and seeing if God confirms them, that he sent them, because they'd rather hover over these prayer claws, send them out, and that's not what God asked them to do. God asked Paul to do that. And I don't know the interactions with Paul. I wasn't there, Apostle Paul. But I know for certain God didn't tell them to do it. And you know why. Nobody receives the rewards. They give them money to get this faith going. And don't you know that if it doesn't come to pass, it's not your fault? He wasn't inspired to do it, or he wouldn't be mimicking the Apostle Paul. There's a reason why Moses, when he spoke of the frogs and the locusts and the lice, because he was sent by God. There's a reason why when Elijah walked into the widow in Zarephath's home, is because God commanded her. And she wasn't prospering because she gave to the prophet. She prospered because she obeyed the command of God. Because God told Elijah, go to Zarephath. There's one woman. There's not multiple women. There's one woman that I've commanded her. God spoke and she obeyed. It wasn't the giving to the prophet. It was the obedience. And we must obey God too. You've received of God. And the reason why you don't have the peace that God would have for you is because you haven't obeyed God. You keep giving to charlatans, cons, thieves, liars. And the reason why what they say don't come to pass, I'll say it again, and again is because they're not sent by God. This country's imploding from the inside out, and they're prophesying peace and prosperity, just like the false prophets in Ezekiel's day, muttering out this sick nonsense while this country is imploding morally, spiritually. We're following science. Science is our God. Science will save us. When God speaks, it's plain. We found out during the pandemic that science is subject to interpretation. When God reveals things to you, which he has, because he's not a liar, he sent his son, he has spoken to you. It's as plain as could be. That's why you remember the truth, because it's just plain. As I walked past this person 30 years ago, he said, everything's going to be all right. I was worried from finances. I was worried for security. I was worried about my insecurity. And you know what? So far, according to God's word and his mercy and grace, everything's been all right. Still here. Miraculously, still here. By his grace and mercy, still here. Expecting that everything's going to work all right. And you know what? You've received that word too, because God's not a liar. You received that promise from God, not from the lips of another man. God never said in the Bible, I dare any televangelist, I dare any person who knows the Bible inside, I could care less. God has never given another man the authority he reserved for his only begotten son to reveal his will to you. We serve an only God that can speak to us, that doesn't rely on another man to reveal his truth. Because he's alive. He's not hay, he's not stubble, he's not a rock. He's a living and alive person. And when he speaks, you know it. And that's exactly where Satan has come to tempt you, is exactly what God has revealed to you. So whether it's drugs, sexual sin, whether it's gambling, whether it's one of the 10 commandments, adultery, covetousness, dishonoring thy mother and the father, I guess you know as well as I do that God has revealed it to you. And Satan had built such hatred with my father that Satan used my father and his cheating, sinful ways to destroy my life. And when God set me free, I was at a table reading the Bible, and things weren't working in the full gospel church like they weren't working in the denominational church. And once I obeyed God, forgave my father, my eyes were opened. And there's so many telling details. I was reading the scriptures, and it said that the rich man looked up to heaven from hell. The rich man in hell looking up and saw the rich man and saw what he saw in the bosom of Jesus Christ. And he said, let him dip his finger into my mouth because I'm burning in these flames. And right then and there, my eyes were opened after I forgave my dad. What he did, he was accountable for. And the misery and the strife and the stress, he was accountable to. It wasn't my business. It was, even though he destroyed his family or helped destroy his family, he was accountable, not me. It wasn't my family. It wasn't my life. It was his life he threw away, chasing another woman. It was his life he threw away by living a lie. It was his life that will never know what God intended for him. Stonecutter's kid that became a mechanical engineer that became a dentist and lost all respect, searching for peace through the arms of another woman besides his wife. That was my temptation. My wife's got anger. My sister's got something else. But I'll tell you the truth, abuse. But I'll tell you the truth. God has revealed to you where Satan is destroying your life now. And you go to church and give money from now to eternity. But the only thing that will bless you is if you obey God and do what he tells you to do, what he has told you to do. My God's told me to be faithful. And only by his grace and mercy can we make this thing work. And like I said, you can name it, claim it. You can do every stupid, idiotic thing that you are being taught. But guess what? When God revealed himself at that table and opened my eyes, nothing I claimed. By his grace and mercy, I was set free. By his love, I was set free. But then the responsibility came to have and attain this relationship, this free gift that God has given me. It's a wonderful thing. But we'll not get it by following the scriptures and the doctrines and commands of men. Jesus Christ kept saying, and I challenge anyone out there, I don't care who you are or what you've done, show me where God has bequeathed his power that he reserved to his son to reveal his will to man, to any flesh and blood person. Never happened. Never will. He spent too much to draw us to himself. And God's revealed something to you. Well, that's your testimony. You can keep blithering these idiotic things that these preachers do, run around with this prayer cloth like it's your victory dance. But guess what? Nothing means more to you than what God has spoken to you intimately.